Welcome to Yerevan. For Armenians, it's basically the capital of the world. I mean, it's one of the only capitals where you can see a strong contrast between several neighborhoods. I mean, there is a Tsarist building next to a Kami block, which is next to a Navastroika. Well, that's not the point. We also have a lot of historical sites too, and they are insanely beautiful, like genuinely. But for us Armenians, you see, those historical sites are basically a common sight. And I say this, like, if you want to travel to Armenia and you want to make the most out of Armenia, you must live like an Armenian. And today we're going to cover one of the greatest things known to mankind and known to Armenians in Yerevan, Yerevani Metropolitan. Rest in peace, Grdon. You were legendary. Well, for those who don't know, the Grdon is like a token one used to get to the metro. Costed around 100 dirhams, literally almost like 25 cents, give or take. Well, it's literally just one line and just this one small extension. So it's pretty easy to just, navigate throughout the metro. And if we compare the Armenian metro to the metros of Budapest, Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Tbilisi, we will see that there are some noticeable differences. Like Moscow and St. Petersburg are on a whole different level. They're older, than the Armenian metro is. The metro of Budapest is relatively bigger than the metro in Armenia, and the metro of Tbilisi is just as compact as the metro in Yerevan too, but it has two main lines, unlike Yerevan, which has only one. And in terms of styles, the Armenian metro is pretty much uniform. It's brutalism, but it's a different version of brutalism. It's basically local architectural motifs mixed with brutalism, which creates this, some sort of a unique concoction of, two contrasting styles. It has a bunch of wagons, like there's this one wagon right here, which is basically like an Urartu peeled Armenian train that is the metro, essentially, for Yerevan's 2,800-year-old anniversary. And there are some other, more simpler versions. There's the blue version, the green version. But all in all, my personal favorite is the Urartu version. And the train that is used in the Armenian metro is basically the OG Metro Wagon Mash 81717. And it's different variations, What makes this train unique in a way, it's basically robust, so it's kind of minimalist and kind of timeless at the same time, but it's old. В общем, back to the metro. It was built during the Soviet Union by our leader Gardon, who literally pulled a 10,000 IQ move and was like, nah bro, we're not building a metro here, it's literally an underground tramway, and the Soviets bought it anyway. Because there was a specific rule when it came to metros. Only cities that were capable of handling fully fledged metro systems had to be over 1 million in population. And after the city reached 1 million, they had to start planning and whatnot, and it would have taken years to, start an entire project, let alone finish it. And as for Yerevan, the city was literally speedrunning the entire process to get it to the 1 million count in terms of population. Let's take an Armenia's route throughout all the metro stations together. Like, I will rate all of them and put it into a tier list. Now, I'm pretty much an old man. I do the tier lists on a piece of paper, so at the end of the video, I'm just gonna share it with you guys. So, just in case, Also, before we start, I want to say this. We can divide Yerevan into two parts, the intelligent massa and the Kharto massa. I swear, as an Armenian living in Yerevan, I've never been to the southern part of Yerevan as a kid. But I've been there when I was older, but it was mostly for work and whatnot. So needless to say, it's its own world and it's worth exploring if you're checking out Yerevan. Now let's start with metro stations. Barekamutyun, S tier. Despite having a commie sounding name, Barekamutyun is a type of station where you can get shawarma for 500 dirhams, a duet coffee, and enter the metro. The entire Barekamutyun station is full of booths, also known as yarmarkas. Cheap clothing, zhingyalov hats, shawarma, and coffee. Works wonders. What also makes this place a banger is that they have power bank charging stations. Now remember, back in the day when I actually had a job, I was going from Yerevan to Barekamutyun and my phone was at 1% battery. So there was a power bank charging station where you could, rent your own power bank and, put it in and get around Yerevan. Then you drop it off at their location and, vibe with the entire day. As for myself, it was literally 11 o'clock and I was heading home and I was tired. So I really needed this power bank if I was heading home because I had to track my entire bus and, it took a lot of time. Yeritasardakan, B tier. Yeritasardakan is where most Armenian men get their first ever Izmen. For my non-Armenian audience, you might ask, like, what is an Izmen? Like, I can tell you what it is, but I need to give you an entire situation because there's no exact definition of what an Izmen is, like, that I can come up with. Like, let's say that you really admired this one girl that you just saw, like love at first sight or whatnot. You really want to approach her, but you cannot approach her. Probably you're shy and whatnot. And eventually when you try to make your move, that girl leaves and you're like, holy shit, man. What the hell did I just go into? Now that is an Izmen. The name itself, Yeritasardakan, literally means for the youth station. Nearly all Kartu spawn points and Armenian unis are here. Like there is the Yerevan State University, there is the Bajishkakan, also known as Medical University, a street away. There is the Zhor Institute, two of which are Kartu spawn points and one of them being an Indian one. There's nothing much you can do inside the station apart from, going to class. But there's something next to it known as the Metro, which is basically underground pedestrian crossing turned into a mall. Kinda. And trust me, sometimes there was some shady stuff happening there, like in the bathroom, I remember. Что поделаешь. Hanrapetutyan hrabarak, A tier. This is for the sake of being in the very, very center of Yerevan. While again, there is nothing much to do inside the station, you can just go around Grdon because there's a lot more you can do in Grdon. No wonder it's a tourist hotspot. Like you can attend Lervasnel areas of Nefers, charts, or check the city out. After all, Grdon is supposed to be the OG Yerevan. Like Tamanyan, the planner of Yerevan, designed Grdon to be the Yerevan that we know today, not Yerevan as a whole. You can find many underdog concerts here, like there's Exileth and Kangun, for example. Grdon is packed with art and brain rot. But note, all of this is outside of the station. This is Grdon, the heart of Yerevan. And next to it, there used to be this one legendary spot known as Arabic Sandwich, where you would get the most authentic Lebanese-style shawarma. Now it's gone. And also had a bunch of booths there that sold, Middle Eastern spices and whatnot. But it has this one thing and one thing only that stays here and I think will stay here for a long ass time. A coffee machine. And using a coffee machine now is literally like a ritual. Like, dude, you would go grab yourself a coffee for 200 dirhams or 100 dirham too. And, enjoy it, like probably during work breaks and whatnot. Zoravar Andranik, C tier. Andranik is one goated individual. Frankly, one of my favorite Armenian figures in history. But the station named after it is not really my favorite. Like, it's right under Rasya Mall, which is honestly one of the weirdest malls that I've ever been to in Armenia. It's the second station in Grdon, and Hanrapetyan Hrapara clearly overshadows this station. And about Rasya Mall, is literally the mall where you can get around using elevators. And fun fact, Rasya Mall was supposed to be a theater. I mean, it was a theater when it was designed, and it was a marvelous piece of brutalist architecture in the Soviet Union. But after its collapse, it was abandoned that eventually became a mall. The very reason why I put this at C tier is that I'm literally biased that Hanrapetyan Hraparak is better than Zoravar Andranik, the station. Now mind you, we reached the threshold of the intelligent massa. So you can count Zoravar Andranik as the border zone between the intelligentsia and the Kartus. And as we progress, you will see more and more commie blocks and eventually a lot of Kartus. Anyway, let's continue. Sasuntsi Davit, S tier. Despite being named after the legendary Sasuntsi Davit from our epic known as the Daredevils of Sasun, which is basically one of the most quoted pieces ever in Armenian literature. This is not just a metro station, this is a train station. Like from here you can go to Gyumri or even switch a country, like you can go to Georgia. Specifically you can go to Tbilisi. And it was basically part of this Transcaucasian railway per se, and pretty much it's goated. Another thing known about the Sasuntsi Davit station is basically they have those types of elektrichkas, which you can use to travel shorter destinations. For starters, elektrichka is basically an electric train, which people use, to travel to Sevan, Shorja specifically, Armavir, Gyumri, and so forth. This place is also historically significant because here and in the year 1990, Armenian protesters clashed with the Soviets, resulting in something known as the Alyunot Giraki, aka Bloody Sunday. Basically, the Soviet troops then tried to enter Yerevan from Nubarashen and Sovetashen to Sasuntsi Davit, but the locals fiercely resisted and blocked the movement of Soviet troops, which ended up in fierce clashes in parts of central Yerevan as well as Gayaran itself. By the way, Garegin is also Sasuntsi Davit station. We just call it Garegin in Armenia. What puts this into S-tier categories, not shops, not anything, is the entire architecture and the fact that it's a metro station and a train station at the same time. Now, if you want to shop around here, there's the Yerevan Tonavacar. It's not a mall per se, it's not even a store too, it's like somewhere in between. And it has this one legendary store known as Ardi Shop. And the guy running Ardi Shop, I swear, is basically the Armenian Wolf of Wall Street. Sasuntsi Davit is also known as Garegin, and next to it you can find a bunch of stores, a place where you can have kebab, and most importantly a lot of kartuz and Grdonchi taxis. Now, Grdon is the ultimate business model. It means stealing someone's car and using it as a taxi. Now, if you have someone named Susan, make sure she watches this part because I think she will absolutely love it. Now, as we proceed, we reach Gortsaranayin, which is basically D tier. Now, there is nothing much you can do here. Back during the Soviet Union, this place had a bunch of factories. Now it barely has any working ones, because, you know, corruption. And again, we're very much far from Grdon. Practically, there is nothing much you can do here. Since Gortsaranayin is connected to a bunch of factories, there is the iconic Njdeh factory, but also TETS. So TETS, also known as Yerevan Thermoelectric Plant, is one of the oldest plants in Yerevan, and now it ceases to work as it is, as far as I know, and most of the big temas are basically there. Too many Zabroshka factories with nothing special anymore. So up next we have Shengavit. Shengavit is basically B tier here because it's not really that flashy, but it is one of the first ever metro stations built in Armenia. And it's also historically significant because it's right next to an archaeological site which dates to a 5,000-year-old city, something that very few cities claim now. But it also has one of the most generic style design for the entire metro. Fun fact, it's one of the only stations that continued to work even during the energy crisis of the 1990s, also known as Mututsur Tariner. Garegin Njdeh Square, also known as Yerort Mas. 100% S tier. This place leads you to the ultimate Kartu spawn points and is basically a mirror to Barekamutyun. Named after the legendary figure himself, Garegin Njdeh, who fought against the Bolshevik Russians and Turks who tried to take control of Zangezur, also known as Sunik, and this place known as Lerna Hayastan, literally meaning mountainous Armenia, the last bastion of resistance against the Soviet Union's communist Bolshevik ideas. I mean, axpers, if you literally get out of the station, you can find yourself in a practically new city. It's still Yerevan, sure, but this place feels different. It's the edge of Yerevan, yet it looks like Grdon but has more kartus than tourists. I used to work here back in the day. I would literally take the metro from Barekamutyun all the way to Yerotmas just to get to work. And slept too in between. This is how you know that Armenian metro is safe. I mean, try sleeping in LA or New York metros. I mean, it's like a dare at this point. An honorable mention to Charbakh. Now, I'll put this as C tier because I don't know much about it, apart from the fact that Charbakh itself is a PvP arena. You see, Charbakh station was supposed to be the second route that was never actually constructed because the USSR collapsed, so it's just there. There are two unfinished projects in the Yerevan metropolitan system, with one being the Achapnyak station, which now is slowly starting to become a real thing, and the other one is Surmalu station, which was supposed to be in between Sasuntsi Davit and Zoravar Andranik, and was supposed to serve Surmalu, which was basically like a shopping center for Armenians. Both of those were designed during the Soviet Union, but as the Soviet Union collapsed, those projects became non-existent. I mean, the Achapnyak station project is still here and might be open, let's say, next year, but for the Surmalu station, it's not really that certain. Now, I made an entire video of an Armenian guy touring metros, and if you're interested, I'll leave a link in the description down below. And apart from that, here you have it, Akhberjan. Armenian metro stations explained by an Armenian. I hope you liked the video, Akhberes. Make sure to smash that like button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I almost forgot. Here's the tier list. Anyway, helayes.
Ես այնտեղ եմ աշխատում
Կաշխատես, բա ինչ կանես
Մեկը լինենք
Անբաժան
Մեկն էլ Աստված մեզ պաշտպան
Աստծու անունը չտաս, մոտս